Well, in 1995, I didn't get what I was due, and now I want to be compensated. How are you communicating or attempting to communicate with workers that the money is not for compensation at this point in time?
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
From the union's perspective, what we have done is met with some of the retirees as well as those who have been affected, because like what Sister Elena rightly mentioned, it's not only retirees who were affected during that time. So we also meet with public officers who were affected during that period, and with that we try to come up with, like what she mentioned, projects. So we're looking at various directions, various angles as to how each and every one of these individuals who were affected can benefit, because that's basically what the trust or this money that was put into this BTL shares was for all of those individuals who were affected to benefit in some point or another. So the dialogue is still happening currently, because then we still haven't formulated any projects, or we still haven't come up with any benefits for these people. So it's one that is ongoing, and we plan to keep it going until we could come up with projects that satisfy, if not all, the majority of the individuals who were affected during that period.
And just let me say though that the projects are not to be the brainchild of the trustees alone, because as persons who are affected, you have a right to suggest projects. You can come in and say, listen, I think that my group that I represent can benefit in this manner.
Yeah.
And so some persons might be waiting for us to come up with the projects. Yes, we are the leaders, and so we would be the ones who would be tasked to do that. But we can take suggestions from our members, and so whether you are retired, whether you are a teacher, still a public officer, you can suggest projects to us, and then the trust is going to be discussing those and see how we can implement those suggestions.
And as a trustee, because we're directly responsible for the management, we have received from the retirees the idea of something in the medical field. So we have written KHMH, we have heard from them as it pertains to certain equipments. We are also looking into the whole aspect of the geriatric homes for them. We're doing that. And those are things that came out when we did the consultations with them. Most of the retirees have medical issues. What we did though, we had gotten permission from the previous protectors, because as you know, our presidents here, they're new. So the previous protectors are the past presidents, for us to hire a project officer to help the retirees and other members who needs assistance in carrying out their ideas. And we were right at the brink of bringing that person into office to carry that out when we ended up with the lawsuit. Again, that put a halt on that particular aspect. And it is not because we don't
Go ahead.
It is not because we don't want to carry out the projects or do whatever it is that we are mandated to do. It's just that everything takes time. Everything is a system. First, we had to get the documents in order. Then we had to open the office, hire employees, and then after that, we were going directly after the projects, and then we got caught up with the court system. So here we are now trying to deal with the situation with the courts so that we can carry out our mandate fully.
So at this point in time, there isn't any project that has been formulated.
Implemented would more be the word.
Okay.
Implemented would more be the
So
word.
you looked at potential projects.
Yes.
And you were about to hire a manager, a project manager.
Yes. Based on all the ideas that we had gathered, yes. And so we're right there now waiting for all of this to be cleared so that we can carry out our mandate.
Now, why do you feel that this miscommunication is still lingering, even though we have heard from the unions before that this was a process that was had already been established from the time the agreement was made? Whoever wants to take it.
The press release that government issued. Go to the trustees and our names were called for benefits payable to you, and right from there it started. And then in this, Joby is saying that they did not say cash. Benefit is up to you how you want to interpret it. Perception, they're not responsible for the perception out there. And so this is it right there. And that was used in the whole lawsuit, that same press release.
Now you guys have...
Sorry, go ahead.
You guys have come under tremendous scrutiny and criticism coming out of this lawsuit and what government's position is, what the position of the trust is, and then what the overall perception. I keep going back to that. The fact that people look at it as though, okay, you're sitting on all of this money and there is a refusal to disburse the money, so to speak.
We can't disperse the cash. If you talk about giving individual people, individuals a check, that's out of the question because we are the same agreement.
Bound by that agreement.
Bound by that. The next thing, I am waiting to hear government's position because you're saying government's position and I haven't heard government's position other than what we see here. I am waiting for government's position and other than that press release. We have
perhaps
heard
there's an informal one where it's
the retirees' position. If you notice, we are just coming forward as a union and as a trust because we're here jointly. But other than that, because we don't want to quarrel and fuss and fight with our people. We don't want that. And then we are of the opinion that there are others who are instigating that. That is not what the unions are about. That is not what we're about.
Now, let me ask Doreth for a second. What is your... Do you feel that this release was misinformed, or do you feel that it was with poor intentions? What is your analysis?
It seems both, and let me explain why I say both. Misinformed because then, as humans, we tend to think, we tend to hear certain things, and we create our own interpretation, right? So the terms or the words used within that press release was like what Sister Nadia said, one that would have been misleading, right? Because they're telling you go to the union to get what is due you. What that is, they didn't specify that it was cash or anything of that matter. No, and again, the fact that it's misleading because then as humans, I believe that we're going to say, okay, this is what is out there, and let me go for what is due me. I was affected during that time, so the press release, they said they gave the money to the unions, so I'm going to go to the unions and get what they owe me, right? Whatsoever that is, not thinking about it as the fact that, you know what, there is a document out there. So what I would have expected from the beneficiaries was to go and review this document, Circular 9 and Circular 10, that indicated that one, if we are to give out money, then the trust won't last for 120 years. That's one. Two, it's basically for projects. So then let's come up with projects to see how these individuals can benefit, right? And that benefit can come in several different forms or manner. Because like what we said, the benefit can vary. But if we can't create any projects, then obviously we know that there won't be any benefit. The longer we continue to prolong the finalizing and the coming together as people who have been affected, it will take us forever to come up with projects. Because then the retirees are not giving us that opportunity to do what the unions were given that mandate to do, was to create projects for them to benefit.
So what do you do at this point in time? If you have persons who have been affected, who have complaints of how the trust is being managed or what the trust is being used for, they've gone through the legal system, what is the current action plan for the unions who are still managing the trust?
Well, at this point in time, we are focused on the new trust deed that that we were mandated to do over, and so we are focused on that. We are seeing how quickly we can get that to be accepted and to go through. And then we have to focus, as Ms. Nadia said earlier, projects. Keeping in mind though that us as protectors and trustees, we don't have the necessary qualification to be able to put together these project proposals and manage these projects. And so the fact that we were trying to hire somebody in that position shows how committed we were to putting together projects. And I think the way forward for us is to complete with the deed and then to start having these projects come to reality, so that, as Sister Doreth said, that our members can benefit. The longer we take to do that, the less benefit persons will get. Because the longer we take, the older you are getting. And the older you are getting, the closer you are going to going somewhere else. And so, we really need to work on that. So the focus right now really is to complete whatever was in the judgment, have those completed, do what we need to do with those, get the deed together, and then start with projects. Anything else?
I just wanted to add that one of the area of contention between the retirees and the trust, the fact that we had there that the trustees could deem anybody as beneficiary, because if the trust is supposed to last 120 years, we felt that we needed to incorporate the new membership. Because a union is a continuum, new people retire and dies, and a new one comes, and so then they took us to court over that, and so the court felt that shouldn't be, so they struck the deed down, and that had to be removed, which means that only the people who were affected during that time are the ones to benefit. And I want to bring this point clear to this country. You already know the financial condition we're in, you know what interest rate is like and all of that. There is also another part in there that gives the trustees or the trustee the authority to invest. We have created what we call a individual project loan. It's a trust project. That is how we bring interest or keeps the money increasing. Right? Because we have overhead, you have employees to pay. So while we are there in litigation, paying lawyers and all of that, and then not doing anything else basically, then the money is just going to sit there and garner like 2% from Scotia, while when we do it ourselves, you have a higher return. So it's a trust project bringing in higher returns to the office and making certain that we can meet the overhead. And that's what we're trying to explain. Their thing is that nobody should benefit. A loan is not a benefit. It's just an investment. And we have made other investments. We invested in the Mercy bonds. That's turning out well. And we still call the money sitting at the treasury an investment, because every year we get our 6% on that. Right? So we and with Dr. Philip Castillo, the economist, he guides us well. He would make recommendations. We go out, we do our research. Along with that, we come up to the table, we discuss, because we want to make certain that we know the decisions made are in the best interest of the trust and the people who are to benefit. Because there are two things out there. You're either expert in or an expert off. And when it comes to this situation right now, I don't know who is what when it comes to the public domain.
What has been the interaction or communication with the retirees who brought the case? Have you had a sit down? Have you been able to communicate effectively?
We sat down about 3 times before the case. We sat down even after the case. But they're of the notion that they ought to name the trustees. They're of the notion that they ought to name the trustees. I was working in 95. I started working in 1993, so I am a beneficiary. And so they don't represent my interests at all. And they're giving the impression that they're representing all of us who are beneficiaries, and they're not. And that is something. So I made that clear to them, because I like to say this, I have that history background, where we look at the whole colonial mentality of suppressing the whole economic growth. Now, I love this whole idea of the trust, because it gives people the opportunity to get some money, create their own projects, and when you can make $2 on your own, you can make like $500 to $600 extra. I love that whole idea. And so for that, when I was asked to serve, or voted in to serve, I had no problem doing that, because I'm into that whole economic thing and that entrepreneurship. So we have sat down and we have shared that with them. But they still have an issue with the individual project loans, which again, we keep explaining to them. And the court said it is not a benefit. alone is not a benefit, especially if you have to pay it back. Yeah. So we
but perhaps their concerns are the risks that are involved. I mean, a loan always comes with a risk that somebody will default.
Our accounts have been audited and they have been provided with those audits, and those audits on our website. Even though we have media houses out there saying, oh, they will take it down, everything the trust does, we are transparent with every single thing that we do. You know why? I'm the BNTU trustee, and I'm a BNTU member. And you remember last year we struck accountability. That was one of our main things. So we are being attacked now from the angle of accountability, but we know that we are accountable. Baker Telehouse is the auditing firm we're working with. They have done the first leg of the audit. Presently, they're working on the other leg of the audit. We have provided them with the first leg of the audit, and that has to do with the funds that we, the trustees, receive from the protectors, the unions. All right, so that have been audited and provided to them. The other part that is being done now is the portion where GOB, okay, from the inception where GOB was in charge. Now, we were taken to court, GOB was taken to court, the unions were taken to court. We did our part. We were of the opinion that GOB should have done that part. GOB didn't do that part. But as trustees, to end all of this, we are getting it done. Because we want them to see, look, this is what happened during the era GOB was in charge.
And it has to be that as beneficiaries, they can always go into the office and request to see these financials, to see the audited report. But persons, they don't do that. And it's just now that this matter is in the courts that we've seen where, they want and these things were given to them. But they have every right to go to that office and say, listen, I'm a beneficiary. I need to know how the funds are being spent. And I need to know what the projects you are going to be doing. Where are you with that? How far is it? They have a right to go and ask these questions. But I think sometimes we have to understand that when a person has a belief about something, it doesn't matter what you show them, what you tell them, that is what they will believe. And despite the fact that you are showing them that what you are saying isn't true, they will stick to what they are saying because that is what they want to believe. Right? And so we find that for us as BNTU, not a lot of our teachers are up in arms that we are aware of. Because every meeting that we used to go to, every agent that we had, every convention that we had, we spoke about the trust. And so our members were well aware of what this was about, what it should entail, and that it should be for projects. And so while there are some persons who might want to say, well, oh yes, and these persons represent me, our teachers have never come to us to complain and say, well, we don't know what these monies are for.
Current members, so it seems to be more the retired.
Even the retired ones, because they were in service when we were going around explaining about the trust, and so they know that it's for projects.
It seems to me that the greatest challenge is whether in a loan or whether through some other project, if for example there's a health facility set up, and I mean infrastructure, I mean some kind of funding opportunity. It seems that the beneficiaries are saying they don't want anybody who wasn't working in 1995, who fell under this agreement, should be able to access it. Is that's my understanding of it?
That is what they're saying.
Now, that they benefit, right?
Yes, in the sense that what they're saying is that if you are outside of that,
if you didn't work in 1995, 96, 97, yeah.
Yes, then you can have access to whatsoever project, but you're not supposed to benefit, which in detail, in reality, the document did speak of that, that it was all
for the future.
Yes, it was all individuals who were affected during that period. So that part of it was never argued because the document says that. Now, but for that to happen, you have to include people outside of it to manage it, to see to it that it comes to light and to reality. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to benefit. You understand? So in that case, that I think again they misinterpret the fact that when the document speaks of all, they thought that, well, that all public officers. No, it's all who were affected during that period, 95, 97.
So the crux of the matter is, what exactly is a benefit? A loan is one way of perhaps increasing your funds from your perspective, but from their perspective it is a benefit.
But it's not a benefit.
It can't be a benefit if you have to pay.
If you have to pay it back, yeah.
Now, then it's different.
I suppose the most crucial point, and Senator Smith said it in terms of looking at a timeline. If someone is retired, the money is more urgent now than it is 10 years from now when you're able to sort this through. So you spoke about having audited reports. You spoke of having a staff in place. How do you move forward? How do you ensure that those who were affected between 1995 and 97, whether still working or retired, can be able to feel some sort of benefit from the trust, and you move past this obstacle over the actual wording of how it should be managed?
Well, as long as there is litigation,
we
can't move forward, because you try to do something and then you don't know what will be the next step. And so you're in the middle of something, and then you have to go to court to address something. And so I think that until we have the deed put in place, until we have finalized who the trustees will be, how many trustees, where they'll be coming from, and that kind of thing, there's nothing that we can do. We have to go through the process.
So what is your final message to those trustees who still have a concern about how the money from the trust is being used, or was proposed to be used, I should say?
Yeah, more proposed to be used. My message to them is that we have no problem coming to the table to discuss, put together the projects that they deem as the ones that most beneficial to them, because as I said earlier, we are binded by the document.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons why we ended up in the courts, because they came to us hoping that we would give them cash. We can't give cash. We can't give cash. So we're willing to sit down. That's what we're about. The union, sit down, negotiate, and let's do something, but it has to be projects.
I think from our end as BNTU, we have had suggested projects that we've come up with. I'm sure PSU has as well. And so we just want, for me, our members, as our BNTU members, those who have retired, we just want them to understand that, as we have been saying all along, we are managing the funds so that they can benefit. And until we are able to do that, none of them can benefit. And so we just ask that they work with us, that they support us, and that they be behind us to ensure that we put together this project that they can benefit as quickly as possible.
And I agree with Sister Elena in that aspect. What I have been doing for public officers is meeting with them and sitting down and trying to understand what we can do to see to it that, whatsoever we put together is one that all beneficiaries going to benefit from, right? So I am asking them to come around, get in contact with myself or individuals within the Public Service Union's office. If there is a time that we can have a sit down and go through whatsoever it is, whatsoever suggestions that they might have, that we can move away from this obstacle and let the trust work for the beneficiaries. Because currently it's not doing anything for no public officer, not even the beneficiaries themselves who are supposed to be benefiting from the trust, right? So they need to come around and for us to move this ball and see to it that things start to happen the way how it's supposed to be.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing your perspective in terms of what you hope to be able to do with the trust and what guides you, obviously, the document that you've been quoting. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.